The ocean on the distant world was endless. It stretched far beyond the eyes could see, rolling like a great silver sheet under the light of two suns. The waves moved with heavy rhythm, and beneath them lay a world that was older than the sky itself. Deep below the surface, far away from warmth and air, a giant form slept. The body of the albino dragon mother was hidden under stone, coral, and heavy layers of slime. Barnacles clung to her wings and tail, as if they had claimed her for themselves. She looked like part of the seafloor, a broken mountain lying at rest. Her eyes were shut, her breath slow, her heart beating once every long moment. For centuries she had remained still, as if the ocean itself had forgotten her. The people of the ocean tribes knew about her. They did not call her dragon, for they had never seen her fly. They called her the White Ghost. Their elders warned the young never to swim near the deep trench where her body rested. They believed she was cursed, a beast punished by the stars, left in the dark as a reminder of wrath. Some said she would one day wake and destroy everything. Others believed she was only a dead husk, waiting to dissolve into sand. Above the world of waves and fear, far in the quiet sky, a human ship moved slowly. It was not large, but it was strong enough to cross the stars. Inside the ship was a lone explorer named Myra. She was not a soldier or a queen. She was a seeker of old things, a traveler who listened to forgotten stories. Her mission was to find what others ignored, to record life that had slipped into legend. Myra had read fragments of reports about this ocean planet. The reports spoke of great shadows under the waves, of songs in the water that did not belong to any tribe. The words were uncertain, filled with doubt, but to Myra they were enough. Where others saw danger, she saw truth waiting to be found. She guided her ship through the clouds until it floated gently on the ocean. The metal hull rocked with the waves. She stood at the window, watching the water shift like silver glass. The sky was wide and bright, yet her heart was pulled toward the dark depths below. She felt as if something was waiting, something alive though forgotten. Her scanner lit up with strange readings. The machine was made to find energy sources, but what it showed was not clear. A rhythm pulsed deep under the ocean floor. At first she thought it was an error, but the pattern repeated, slow and steady. It was like a heartbeat. Myra leaned closer, eyes narrowing. A mountain-sized life form, unmoving, buried under years of growth and stone. She smiled softly, excitement rushing through her veins. She prepared her diving suit, checked her oxygen tank, and placed a small recorder on her wrist. She had been to many strange worlds, but she had never felt such pull toward the unknown. The dive into the ocean was heavy and cold. The water pressed against her suit as she descended. Shafts of light from the twin suns pierced the surface, but as she went deeper, the light faded into endless blue. Tiny creatures floated around her, glowing like drifting sparks. Schools of fish scattered at her passing, their scales shining in the dark. The deeper she went, the quieter it became. The sound of her breathing echoed inside her helmet. The scanner guided her down, toward the trench that the tribes feared. She could feel the pressure of the water grow, but her suit was strong enough to hold. Then she saw it. At first it looked like a great wall of stone. It stretched wide, covered in coral, seaweed, and barnacles. But as her light passed across it, she saw the curve of a wing, the outline of a long neck, the shape of a jaw with sharp teeth. Her heart raced. It was not stone. It was alive. The dragon mother lay there, silent, her body wrapped in the weight of centuries. Slime clung to her pale scales, giving her a ghostly glow. Her wings were folded against her sides, the bones thick and powerful even under decay. Her tail stretched into the shadows, so long that Myra could not see its end. The sight stole Myra's breath. She moved closer, hands brushing against the dragon's side. The barnacles felt rough, hard like rock, but beneath them she felt warmth. Faint, but real. She pressed her palm gently against the giant body, and her scanner confirmed it. A heartbeat, slow but steady. Myra whispered though no one could hear her under the water. "You are alive." The dragon's eye twitched. Only a flicker, but Myra saw it. Her body froze in awe and fear. The eyelid, heavy with slime, shifted slightly as if trying to open. A small trail of bubbles rose from the dragon's nostrils. Myra stayed very still, unsure if the creature would see her as a friend or a threat. But the dragon did not move further. She only sank again into stillness, as if torn between dream and waking. Myra swam carefully around the massive head, studying every detail. The dragon's horns were covered in coral, yet beneath the growth she saw the white sheen of bone. The mouth was half open, showing teeth that had cut through ages of silence. She wondered what battles this creature had fought, what skies she had flown before falling into the deep. Above the trench, the ocean tribes stirred. Their watchers had seen a light in the forbidden waters, and they whispered among themselves. The elders warned that the ghost was being touched by an outsider. They feared that this would bring doom, and already they prepared warnings to pass to every tribe. But down below, Myra did not fear. She felt a strange calm. The dragon mother was not a curse, not a ghost. She was a survivor. Time and tide had tried to bury her, yet she still lived. Myra pulled a tool from her pack, a small blade meant for cutting coral samples. She began scraping barnacles from the dragon's side. The creatures popped off one by one, leaving pale scale beneath. The scale was rough but strong, glowing faintly white in the beam of her light. She worked slowly, careful not to harm the skin. The dragon's chest rose slightly with a deep breath. Myra felt the water shift around her. The heartbeat in her scanner grew a little faster. She smiled again, though her hands shook with the weight of wonder. She spoke softly, knowing the dragon could not understand words, but hoping the sound of her voice carried kindness. "You are not alone. I will help you." The dragon's eye opened a crack. A thin slit of silver light shone from beneath the heavy lid. It fixed on Myra, sharp yet weary. The gaze was ancient, filled with memory and silence. Myra felt as if the ocean itself was staring into her soul. For a long moment they remained like that, human and dragon, meeting across centuries of difference. Then the eyelid closed again, and the dragon sank back into her slumber. But the bond had begun. Myra knew the tribes would not welcome what she had found. She knew they would fear it, and perhaps try to destroy it. Yet in her heart she had already chosen. She would not leave the dragon alone. She would bring her back to life. And deep within her chest, the albino dragon mother dreamed for the first time in ages. She dreamed of open skies, of fire in her throat, of children long lost. And she dreamed of a small figure with kind hands, brushing away the slime of forgotten years. The ocean trench was darker than night. Myra's small light cut through the water, but it felt fragile against the weight of the deep. She floated near the great body of the albino dragon mother, her eyes wide with wonder. The heartbeat she had found still pulsed faintly, steady but weak. Every beat told her the truth. This creature was alive, though the world had forgotten her. Myra swam closer to the dragon's head again. She remembered the moment when the silver eye had opened, just a crack, and looked at her. The memory filled her with energy. It was not fear that held her now. It was respect. She felt like she was standing before history itself. Her hands moved across the dragon's scales, brushing away slime and seaweed. The scales were rough, but beneath them was strength. She thought of the years that must have passed, the storms that had rolled above, the lives that had risen and fallen while this creature lay in silence. She felt a heavy sadness for the dragon, but also hope. The dragon stirred again. Myra's suit sensors showed a rise in movement. The dragon's chest lifted slowly, drawing in a deeper breath. A stream of bubbles rose from her nostrils, floating to the surface far above. Myra steadied herself, holding onto a piece of coral as the water shifted. Then the dragon's eye opened wider. The silver slit widened into a gleaming oval. The gaze locked on Myra. It was not the look of a beast ready to kill, but of one trying to understand. The light in the eye was sharp, like polished metal under the suns. Myra froze at first, then lifted one hand slowly, palm open, showing she carried no weapon. The dragon let out a sound. It was low and heavy, not a roar, but a rumble that vibrated through the water and into Myra's bones. She almost lost her balance in the water. The sound rolled through the trench, shaking loose small shells and stones. Myra did not retreat. She held her place, staring into the giant eye. "You can hear me, can't you?" she whispered. The dragon blinked once, slow and deliberate. It was as if she was answering. Myra's heart pounded with excitement. She swam closer, moving toward the dragon's nose. She placed her gloved hand gently on the cold, slime-covered skin. The dragon did not pull away. Instead, the eye closed again, but not in sleep. It was as if the creature was allowing her touch. Far above in the open waters, trouble was brewing. The ocean tribes had sent scouts to watch the trench. They had seen Myra's light, and whispers spread quickly among them. The white ghost was stirring, and a stranger was the cause. The elders feared this was the sign of old destruction returning. They began preparing warnings to spread across the sea. In the trench, Myra did not know of this. She was lost in the moment with the dragon. Her oxygen meter warned her that time was short, so she returned to the surface. She climbed back onto her small ship, gasping as she removed her helmet. She lay flat for a while, staring at the wide sky, her chest heaving with breath. She could still feel the weight of that gaze on her. The next day she returned to the trench. She carried more tools this time. She brought brushes and small scrapers, simple instruments meant for cleaning samples, but now they had a greater purpose. She swam back to the dragon, whose body was still covered in barnacles and slime. With care, she began her work. She scraped one barnacle, then another, freeing the scales below. Each scale was pale white, shining softly like polished stone. They caught the light of her lamp and reflected it back at her. Myra smiled as she worked, humming softly inside her helmet. Hours passed, and her arms grew tired, but she did not stop. She wanted the dragon to feel the weight of years lifted away. She wanted her to know that someone cared enough to help. The dragon stirred more often now. Each time Myra returned, she found the giant body shifting slightly, wings twitching under the layers of coral. Once, the dragon's jaw opened a little wider, letting out a slow stream of bubbles that rolled past Myra's face. The sound was almost like a sigh. On the third day, the dragon moved her head. It was slow, but it was clear. The massive neck shifted, and the head turned slightly toward Myra. The barnacles cracked and broke under the strain, falling into the water. Myra gasped as the silver eye opened fully this time. The light inside the eye burned brighter than before. Myra floated before the dragon, holding her ground. She felt the water move with the giant's breath. Her hands trembled, but she did not back away. She spoke gently, her voice soft but clear inside the helmet. "I will not harm you. I only want to help." The dragon blinked again, slow and heavy. Then she let out a deep sound, a rumbling tone that echoed through the water. It was not anger. It was something else. Something that felt like recognition. Myra reached out once more, placing her hand on the dragon's nose. This time, the dragon leaned slightly forward, pressing her head against Myra's hand. The force was enough to push Myra back through the water, but she laughed out loud inside her helmet. "You trust me," she whispered. In the waters above, the tribes were no longer whispering. Their fear was turning into preparation for war. They believed the white ghost would rise again, and that she would destroy their homes. They forged weapons of bone and metal, and even their strongest hunters prepared to strike. The name of the ghost spread across the sea once more, carried by songs of warning. Myra, however, felt none of that fear. Each day she returned to the trench, bringing light, bringing patience, bringing hope. She cleaned the dragon's wings, brushing away years of growth. She uncovered the curves of her horns, revealing white bone beneath coral. She cleared the dragon's claws, strong as blades, now freed from the grip of time. The dragon grew more awake each day. Her breaths grew stronger, shaking the water around her. Her tail twitched, sending waves that made Myra grip her tools tighter. Once, the dragon even tried to spread her wings. They moved only a little, heavy with the weight of years, but the motion sent a powerful rush of water across the trench. Myra watched with joy. She knew the dragon was remembering her strength. But with every heartbeat that grew louder, with every wing that twitched wider, danger also grew. The tribes were watching. They saw the lights deep below, they heard the rumbles rising from the trench. They told their children to hide, and their warriors to stand ready. They believed the stranger had brought back the curse. Myra remained unaware of their plans. She spent her nights recording notes, speaking into her wrist recorder about the bond she felt. She spoke of the dragon as a mother, a guardian who had only been forgotten. She spoke of the trust she saw in those silver eyes. She promised that she would stay, no matter what came. One night, as she floated near the dragon's head, the creature let out a deep, long sound. It rolled through the water like thunder. Myra felt it in her chest, shaking her heart. The dragon's eye glowed brighter, and for the first time, her lips parted wider. A small spark of light formed deep in her throat, glowing faintly like fire. It flickered only for a moment, then faded. Myra gasped. The dragon still carried her flame. The dragon's head lowered again, resting on the seafloor. Her breathing slowed, but Myra could feel the change. The dragon was waking. Not only in body, but in spirit. She was remembering who she was. Myra placed her hand once more on the giant nose. "You are not a ghost. You are alive, and you are not alone anymore." And in the stillness of the trench, the albino dragon mother closed her eyes again, but this time not to sleep. She was listening. The trench was no longer silent. Each day the albino dragon mother stirred more strongly. Her wings twitched, her tail shifted, and her breaths rolled through the water like waves. Myra worked tirelessly by her side, cleaning, scraping, brushing away the weight of centuries. She felt joy every time she uncovered a new patch of shining scales. Each scale seemed to glow brighter, as if they remembered the sky above. But while Myra was filled with hope, the ocean tribes were filled with fear. The elders of the largest tribe gathered inside a circle of stone towers that rose from the sea. They wore shells carved with patterns of warning. Their voices were low but sharp. Word had spread fast. The white ghost was moving again. A stranger had touched her, awakened her, and soon disaster would fall on all. She was buried for a reason, said one elder with a scar across his cheek. The seas gave us peace while she slept. If she rises, storms will follow. We must strike before it is too late, said another. The stranger from the stars has broken the silence. We cannot allow the ghost to live. The younger warriors listened with wide eyes. Many had never seen the ghost with their own eyes. To them she was legend, a shape in stories told at night. Yet now the water carried vibrations from the trench. They felt the rumble in their bones. The legend was becoming real. While the tribes sharpened their weapons, Myra returned to the trench with new purpose. She had seen the flicker of fire inside the dragon's throat. It had lasted only a moment, but it was enough to show her the truth. The dragon was not broken. She was recovering. Myra spoke often to the creature as she worked. She knew the dragon could not understand words, but she believed her voice carried meaning. "You are strong," she said while brushing slime from the dragon's horn. "You have survived so much. You will fly again. I believe in you." The dragon listened. Each day her eye opened wider. Each day her breath grew stronger. And though she did not speak, Myra felt the dragon's silence was no longer empty. It was heavy with awareness. One morning, Myra brought a new tool from her ship, a small energy torch. She used it carefully to cut away thick coral that clung to the dragon's wings. The beam hissed as it sliced through stone. The dragon did not flinch. She held her wing still, as if she trusted Myra completely. When the coral broke away, the pale wing shone faintly in the dark water. Myra swam back, gazing at the sight. "Beautiful," she whispered. But that same morning, far above, a group of scouts from the tribe swam near the trench. They hid behind rocks, their eyes wide as they saw the dragon shift and stretch her wing. One scout trembled so hard he almost dropped his spear. "The ghost rises," he whispered to the others. "She is alive again." The scouts returned to their people with the news. Fear turned to anger. The tribes prepared faster. Drums of warning echoed across the waters, sending signals from one group to another. Weapons were sharpened, nets tied, harpoons fixed with lines. The warriors painted their skin with dark marks of battle. The elders spoke once more. "The ghost must not rise. The stranger has made her strong again. We will strike the trench. We will end this curse before it ends us." Unaware of this, Myra floated close to the dragon's head. The silver eye opened and locked onto her. She felt calm in its gaze. "You are not a curse," Myra said softly. "You are a mother. You deserve life." The dragon rumbled deeply, the sound shaking the water. Myra placed her hand on the great nose, feeling the vibration. She smiled, even as her heart raced. She felt certain the dragon understood her, not with words but with something older and deeper. Suddenly the water above grew restless. Schools of fish darted past, fleeing in panic. Myra frowned, looking up. Shadows moved above the trench. Shapes of warriors swam downward, carrying spears and nets. Their bodies glowed faintly under the weak light of the suns. Myra's eyes widened. She understood at once. The tribes had come. The dragon also sensed it. Her eye narrowed, her chest rising sharply. A rumble rolled from her throat, deeper than before. She shifted her massive body, wings twitching with sudden energy. The water shook with her movement. Myra swam quickly to the front of the dragon's face. She held out her arms, trying to calm both sides. "Wait," she shouted through her suit, though she knew the warriors could not hear clearly. "She is not your enemy." The first wave of warriors descended into the trench. Their eyes were wide with fear, but their arms were steady. They threw nets toward the dragon's head. The weighted cords spread wide, falling like shadows over her face. The dragon reared her head back, breaking free easily. The net snapped apart like threads. The water rushed with her motion, sending some warriors tumbling. The dragon did not strike at them, but her size alone was enough to scatter their formation. Myra swam between the warriors and the dragon, waving her arms. "Stop. You do not understand. She is not here to destroy you." But the warriors were too afraid to listen. They fired harpoons tipped with glowing stone. The shafts struck the dragon's scales with sharp clangs. Most bounced away, but one pierced a soft patch between her scales. The dragon let out a deep roar that shook the trench from wall to wall. Myra felt the sound in her chest. It was not rage alone. It was pain. She turned and shouted, "No! Stop!" The dragon's silver eye blazed with light. She spread her wings wider than before. Slime and coral cracked and fell away as the wings unfurled. Though heavy with years of sleep, they still carried power. With a single sweep, she pushed the water so hard that the warriors were thrown back, their weapons spinning from their hands. The trench filled with chaos. Warriors swam wildly, trying to regroup. Myra clung to a piece of coral, holding tight against the rushing currents. She feared the tribes would force the dragon into violence, yet she also saw that the dragon was holding back. She had the strength to crush them, but she did not. She shielded her head and body, covering Myra behind her vast form. The warriors, seeing this, grew more frantic. "She protects the stranger," one cried. "She chooses the outsider over us." Another elder's voice rang through the water. "Then both must fall." Myra's heart sank. She swam upward, placing herself in front of the dragon's face again. She raised both arms wide. "Do not fight her. She does not wish to harm you. She only wants to live." The dragon lowered her head behind Myra, her silver eye glowing with calm fury. Her chest rose and fell with strong breaths, sending streams of bubbles upward. She did not strike. She only guarded. The warriors hesitated. For a moment, they saw not a monster but a mother shielding a child. Some lowered their weapons. Others raised them higher. The trench hung in fragile balance. Myra's voice broke the silence again. "If you kill her, you kill your own chance at peace. She is not a curse. She is a guardian. Let me show you." But the elders were not ready to listen. They pulled the warriors back for the moment, retreating from the trench to prepare greater weapons. Their eyes burned with fear and anger. They believed the ghost must be ended, no matter the cost. Myra turned to the dragon, pressing her hand against the pale scales. "I will not let them harm you," she whispered. The dragon blinked slowly, her silver eye softening. She lowered her head until her nose touched Myra's chest, pressing gently. The motion nearly knocked Myra back, but she held her ground. She placed both hands on the great nose, feeling the warmth of life beneath. The bond was no longer only beginning. It was strong now. Strong enough to face the storm that was rising above. The ocean grew restless. Each day the tribes prepared for war, and each day Myra worked with greater urgency beside the albino dragon mother. The air above the waves carried the beating of war drums, their echoes traveling through the water. The sound reached even the trench where the dragon stirred. Myra knew time was running short. The elders of the tribes would not wait forever. They feared what they did not understand, and fear was sharper than any spear. Still, Myra refused to abandon the dragon. She brought new tools from her ship, stronger instruments meant for repair and healing. Some were made for metal, others for stone, but she used them for scales and wings. She adapted everything she could, for she had no choice. She was only one human against the fears of an entire world. The dragon trusted her now. Each day the silver eye opened fully when Myra swam near. The massive head tilted slightly, following her movements. When Myra spoke, the dragon rumbled softly in reply, not in words but in a rhythm that echoed like understanding. One evening, Myra noticed something troubling. She had removed a large cluster of barnacles near the dragon's chest, and beneath them was not shining scale but a scar. The flesh was cracked and weak. Her scanner confirmed the truth. The dragon's body had suffered damage during her long sleep. Without help, it would grow worse. Myra floated in the water, staring at the scar with worry. "You have carried too much for too long," she whispered. "But I will not let you fade." She returned to her ship and searched through her supplies. She had brought machines for repairing her vessel, for sealing metal wounds and powering engines. None were meant for a living creature. Yet Myra refused to accept defeat. She began shaping the tools for a new purpose. She adjusted energy cells into healing lamps. She turned sealants into protective gel for flesh. She made new designs through long hours, her hands never stopping. When she returned to the trench, she brought these creations with her. The dragon lay waiting, her breath slow, her eye glowing faintly in the dark. Myra swam to the scarred chest and placed the healing lamp against the wound. The machine glowed softly, sending warmth into the flesh. The dragon stirred, her body shivering with the new sensation. Myra laid her hand gently on the scales. "It will not hurt," she said softly. "It will give you strength." The dragon did not resist. She let the warmth seep into her chest. Myra worked for hours, moving the light slowly, watching the cracks soften as tissue began to heal. The gel she applied after formed a thin layer, protecting the wound from water and growth. For the first time in centuries, the dragon's flesh was mending. As the healing continued, Myra felt the bond between them deepen. The dragon no longer looked at her as only a curious figure. She lowered her head willingly, letting Myra touch her without fear. Sometimes she pressed her nose gently against Myra's suit, sending small streams of bubbles upward. Myra laughed at the gesture, feeling like she had found a friend older than time itself. But peace did not last. The tribes had grown restless. The elders of many clans had joined together. Their fear had turned into anger, and anger into resolve. They gathered an army larger than any seen before on the seas. Hundreds of warriors armed themselves with spears tipped with glowing stones, nets woven with steel, and harpoons tied to heavy lines. Their songs of war echoed across the ocean surface, spreading dread to all who heard. "The ghost rises," the elders declared. "If she breathes fire again, we will be ashes. If she flies again, Our skies will fall. We must strike now. The army swam in waves, their bodies cutting through the water as shadows. The sound of their movement spread like thunder below. Myra felt the vibration in the trench before she saw them. She turned, her eyes widening in shock as shapes filled the water above. Warriors poured down like rain, filling the ocean with spears and nets. The dragon lifted her head, her silver eye narrowing. A deep rumble shook the trench. She stretched her wings slightly, cracking more coral from their surface. Her body glowed faintly as if her inner fire was stirring again. Myra swam quickly to the dragon's face, raising both arms. Wait. Do not fight. Please, let me speak to them. The dragon held her ground, but her breaths grew faster. She knew danger had come. The warriors descended with shouts muffled by water. They raised their weapons, their eyes fixed on the pale giant. Myra swam upward to meet them, blocking their path. She activated the speaker in her suit, her voice echoing through the water. Stop. She is not your enemy. She is not a curse. She only wishes to live. But the elders swam forward, their faces carved with fear and anger. Stranger, you have blinded yourself. This beast is death. We will not let her rise. Spears shot through the water. The dragon shifted, shielding Myra with her wing. The spears clanged against the scales, bouncing away. Some broke, others lodged shallowly before snapping. The dragon let out a roar that rolled through the trench like thunder. The warriors faltered but did not retreat. Myra shouted again, look at her. She defends, she does not attack. Can you not see? Some warriors hesitated, but the elders urged them on. Nets fell across the dragon's wings, heavy and tight. The dragon shook violently, breaking most of them apart. The water churned with foam and sound. Myra clung to the dragon's neck, her heart racing. The dragon did not unleash her fire. She held it back, though Myra could see sparks glowing faintly in her throat. She endured the strikes, focusing only on shielding Myra. Her great body curled slightly, creating a barrier against the swarm of warriors. Myra's heart ached. She pressed her hand against the dragon's scales. You are holding back for me. You will not harm them, even when they try to harm you. The dragon rumbled in reply, her silver eye flashing with steady light. But the tribes were relentless. Larger weapons appeared, harpoons powered by machines of their own making. The sharp points struck deeper, cutting into the dragon's side. She let out a roar of pain, twisting in the water. Blood drifted faintly into the sea. Myra cried out in horror. No. Stop. You will kill her. But her words were swallowed by the clash. Desperate, Myra activated her wrist beacon. A beam of human light burst into the water, brighter than anything the tribes had seen. It cut across the trench, forcing the warriors to pause. Myra's voice rang through the water, louder than before. You see her as death. I see her as life. She has trusted me, a stranger, when she had every reason to strike. She has shown more mercy than you. Look with your eyes. She protects, she does not destroy. The warriors wavered. Some lowered their spears. Others stared in silence at the giant who shielded the human with her body. The dragon, breathing heavily, lowered her head toward Myra. Her wound bled, but she pressed her nose against Myra's chest once more. The gesture was clear to all. She chose trust. She chose peace. For the first time, the tribes saw not a ghost of destruction but a mother who had suffered in silence, now reaching for life again. The elders, however, were not moved. Their fear was too deep. They ordered another strike, but many warriors hesitated. Doubt had entered their hearts. They began to question the stories they had been told. Myra raised her voice once more. You fear her fire. But fire can destroy or it can give light. Will you kill the one who has chosen to protect rather than burn? The trench grew still. The warriors drifted, uncertain. The dragon's silver eye glowed steady, fixed on Myra. She drew strength from that gaze, and in her chest she knew the bond was unbreakable now. Together, human and dragon had shown the truth. Fear could not erase it. The storm was not yet over, but a new path had opened. The trench was silent after the last roar faded. The warriors hovered in the water, their spears lowered halfway, their eyes shifting between Myra and the pale giant who guarded her. The dragon's silver eye glowed steadily, its light cutting through the shadows of doubt that filled the tribes. Blood still flowed slowly from the wounds where harpoons had struck. The dragon breathed heavily, but she stood firm. She had chosen not to strike, not to burn, though fire lived within her chest. She endured because she had trusted the small human who swam before her. Myra placed her hand gently against the dragon's scarred neck. You are not alone, she whispered, though the water carried her words only as muffled sound. Her heart beat fast, not only with fear but with determination. She knew she could not let this moment slip away. She swam upward again, facing the army. The glow from her beacon still lit the water around her. Warriors shifted nervously, the elders pressing forward behind them with stern eyes. You came here to destroy, Myra said through her suit speaker. But look. She did not strike. She shielded me instead. Is this the monster you fear? Some warriors avoided her gaze, ashamed. Others clutched their spears tighter, torn between the old stories and the truth before them. One of the younger warriors swam forward. His voice carried through the water. She had the chance to burn us all, yet she did not. The stories spoke of endless fire. But this is not what I see. Murmurs spread. Doubt grew stronger. The elders' faces hardened, their power slipping away. They raised their weapons again, shouting commands. But this time, fewer obeyed. Nets hung limp in the water. Spears drifted unused. The albino dragon mother lifted her head higher. She unfurled her wings slowly, pieces of coral and slime breaking away in clouds. For the first time, her full size was revealed. Her body stretched like a pale mountain under the sea, her wings glowing faintly with light that shimmered across the trench. The warriors gasped, struck silent by her majesty. Myra felt her chest ache at the sight. She had always believed humanity's machines were unmatched in beauty and power. Yet nothing compared to this living being who had endured centuries of silence and pain. She was not only a beast. She was history alive, a legend that breathed before them. The dragon raised her voice. A roar thundered through the water, but it was not the roar of rage. It was a call that reached across the ocean. It carried power, but it also carried sorrow and longing. The warriors froze, stunned by the sound. Even the elders wavered. Myra felt the vibration through her entire body. She knew the roar was more than sound. It was a story told without words. The dragon spoke of centuries of waiting, of pain under stone and barnacles, of loneliness without end. She spoke of the hope born when a single human touched her scarred body with kindness instead of fear. The warriors lowered their heads, shame filling their hearts. One by one, they let their weapons fall. Spears drifted downward, nets tore apart. The sea filled not with violence but with surrender. The elders shouted again, but their voices no longer held power. Their followers no longer obeyed. The tide had turned. Myra's voice rang clear. You see now. She is no curse. She is a mother who has suffered too long. She needs healing, not chains. At last, silence ruled the trench. The army dissolved, scattering in waves. Only a few remained, watching with uncertain eyes before retreating. The elders were left alone, powerless. Their fear had been broken by truth. Myra turned back to the dragon. Her body trembled with weakness, her wounds still bleeding. Myra knew she needed to act quickly. She swam to her ship, bringing more of her healing machines. She worked without rest, sealing wounds, applying gel, shining light against broken flesh. The dragon endured, her eye never leaving Myra. The healing took many hours. Myra's body ached, her arms heavy, but she would not stop. When the final wound was closed, she collapsed against the dragon's side, exhausted. The dragon lowered her head gently, touching Myra with her nose once more. It was a gesture of trust, but also of thanks. The next morning, when the light of the sun broke across the sea above, something changed. The dragon stirred. Her wings flexed wider than before, stronger now. The scars no longer glowed with weakness. Her body shimmered with faint white light, like fire hidden within stone. Slowly, with Myra watching, the albino dragon mother rose from the trench. The ocean shook with her movement. Coral broke apart as she lifted her body. Fish scattered in every direction, fleeing from the force of her wings. She climbed upward, breaking free from the shadows of the trench into the open sea. Myra followed in her ship, her heart racing with awe. She had never seen such power. The dragon cut through the water like a storm, rising faster and faster until the surface neared. Then, with a final beat of her wings, she broke free. The sea exploded upward as the dragon burst into the air. Sunlight struck her scales, making them shine like silver fire. Water cascaded off her body, sparkling in the light. She spread her wings wide, their span so great they cast a shadow across the waves. Myra gasped aloud. She had dreamed of this moment but never believed she would live to see it. The albino dragon mother, once buried under slime and barnacles, now flew again above the sea. The people of the tribes rushed to the shores, their eyes wide with shock. They had expected fire and death. Instead, they saw grace. The dragon soared across the sky, her wings cutting through clouds, her body gleaming with rebirth. The sight filled them with awe, not fear. Children pointed upward with wonder. Adults bowed their heads. Songs rose, not of war but of reverence. The old stories were breaking, replaced by new ones born in that moment. The dragon circled once above the sea, then descended. She landed on a high cliff that overlooked the waters. Her wings folded slowly, and she let out a deep sigh that rolled like distant thunder. Myra guided her ship to the cliff and climbed out. She stood at the dragon's side, her figure small against the giant body. Together, they faced the tribes who gathered below. Myra raised her voice. This is no ghost. This is the mother of your sea, and she has chosen life. The tribes knelt, their voices joining in songs of respect. Even the elders who had clung to fear bowed at last. The ocean people accepted the truth. The dragon turned her silver eye toward Myra, and in that gaze was more than gratitude. It was a promise. She had been given new life, and with it, she would protect both her kind and the humans who had shown her kindness. In the days that followed, Myra and the dragon became symbols of unity. The tribes learned to see fire not only as destruction but as warmth and light. They rebuilt their stories, telling of the human who had freed the dragon from her prison, and of the dragon who chose peace instead of rage. For Myra, it was the beginning of a new journey. She had come as one explorer, carrying machines and tools. She had found not ruins but a living legend. She had healed, but she had also been healed in return. She learned that strength was not only in fire or steel, but in trust, in kindness, in choosing mercy when fear ruled the heart. And for the albino dragon mother, it was not the end but a new dawn. She had been trapped for centuries, buried in silence. Now she was free, her wings stronger than ever. She soared again across the skies, carrying with her not anger but hope. Together, human and dragon had broken the weight of old fears. Together, they had lit a fire that no ocean could drown. The world would remember that day. The day the dragon rose again. The day humanity and legend stood side by side. The day fear gave way to life.